You know what, Sam?
What?
The real Alexander the Great has entered the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yes, he has. Yeah, great news with Nikishkin, Sam. Very, very great news. And we will get to that. But first, Sam, playoffs are just around the corner, and we do our best to give you guys the at least the opportunity to get into playoff seats. And how do we do that, Sam?
SeatGeek. So if you use our promo code Caniac Report, you will get $20 off your first purchase. It'll get you into some playoffs for the National Hockey League as well as other sports. If you don't want to go to a playoff game or maybe you're not close enough, maybe you live in Atlanta, you're a Hurricanes fan, you want to go watch the Atlanta Braves, promo code Caniac Report could get you $20 off baseball tickets because baseball season just started. So whatever you want to use it for, concerts, playoff games for the NHL, NBA, opening baseball starting up. So you know what? There's plenty of options for you guys to utilize our promo code and save yourself some money. Don't leave free money on the table.
Yes, exactly. And also, we have a link for donations. So if you feel like you want to donate, there is a link to that in both our YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts in the descriptions down below. And remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. And if you're listening to us like through Apple, Spotify, whatever, please leave a rating and a review and also subscribe because it really does help us out. And Sam, not a lot of NHL news since the last episode, which you were not a part of because you were away.
Yep.
So, you happy to be back, Sam?
Well, you know what? I'm back. It's time to talk. It's playoff time, Sam. So I'm happy that the playoffs are starting up.
I know. I'm very, very excited.
A week from
You're going to
yesterday.
the Toronto game today,
Yeah,
aren't
I'm
you?
getting ready to head to the Toronto game. It's going to be fun. Last home game of the regular season, but I think everyone at this point is just ready for the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I think we were long waiting for the playoffs for quite some time. I went to the Rangers game, and we will recap the two final games. And Sam, this Toronto game that you're about to get to, I mean, there could be a record here if they win. Really could be
For if Toronto wins,
if we win against Toronto,
what would the
because
record
that
be?
would mark like 32 wins. Uh, Yeah, it would mark 32 wins if we win against Toronto at home, which would set the new franchise record of amount of wins at home.
Oh wow, so that means we only would have lost what 10 games at home, something
Yeah,
like that.
that's really good. That's like insanely good, Sam.
And that's why home ice matters for this team in the playoffs.
Yes, exactly. But Sam, a couple things happened around the league, but not much. One I do want to talk about is a team in the Winnipeg Jets. Sam, their goalie in Connor Hellebuck, who's regarded as one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League, is seventh in NHL history to reach 45 wins in a season. Sam, that is truly remarkable. It really is.
I'd say you don't get that very often anymore, right? Not since the days where your goaltenders played like 70 games. It's just not
Not
something you
since
get.
I mean the only goalie I I could see have done that recently, and he's
Vasilevsky.
retired. Well, maybe Vasilevsky, maybe,
You got to
but
look
I
at
was
goaltenders
thinking
who play a
Brodeur.
lot.
I was thinking
Yeah,
Brodeur.
yeah. I was thinking Marty Brodeur, Patrick Waugh. Go again, goalies that would play 60, 70 plus games a season, and you only get that like with Hellebuck, Vasilevsky, Shesterkin. Like it's just those goaltenders, and the Rangers clearly faltered this season, and Tampa's
Yep.
not been like they're good, but they haven't been as good as they have been in the past, so they're probably not there either. But like it's those teams with the clear starting goaltenders, right? Ottinger might be able to do it at some point for Dallas. That wouldn't
Yep.
shock me at all. He's their clear guy over there in Dallas. And That's just one of the benefits if you have a goalie like Hellebuck. I think it's a benefit for the team.
Yeah, I think Sorokin's really good. It's just the team
Yeah,
in front of him. isn't really that good
Let
compared
me
to the likes of
ask
Tampa or
this, Sam.
Florida.
If the Islanders decided to go on a rebuild, which by the way I think they should, and they put Sorokin on the market, do you think Carolina should nibble?
Yes, I think they should.
I
Plus,
do too.
I think honestly that could help Kachekov because you know how he is when it comes to other Russian goalies.
Yes, and I think it would make that competition really good.
It really would.
We have a goalie prospect in our system still, like another one, another Russian.
Kaziev is his name. He
Okay.
plays in the AHL with Chicago, who I might add did clinch the playoffs. So
Yep. So I think that's good for players. Like so, at this point, if you're not going to bring up Bradley Nadeau, uh, which I don't think you should at this point, I think you should
no,
let him get the playoff experience. The time to bring him up would have been earlier on in the year. But no, I think at this point, Bradley Nadeau, he's going to be a top 6 guy in the NHL. At least I think so. And he's going to be a power play guy. And what you need to do is you need to let him get that playoff experience, right? That ride or die kind of situation.
yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. But congrats to Connor Hellbuck, though, on that achievement. And Sam, there's another thing, too. Friedman reported this, and so did the player himself. But as we go to Vancouver, Brock Besser said that he is unlikely to return after this season to Vancouver. And to me, a team in Carolina that is desperate for goals, he could definitely be a candidate.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you agree?
I think so. And,
He's a big guy too. He's like
he is.
6'2", 6'3".
And I kind of want to disagree a little bit with, friend of the pod, Adam Golden. We'll get him back on here to talk about this stuff too. I just don't see where it makes sense for Carolina to make most of their moves this offseason via trade. I don't know why you voluntarily opt against giving up, opt in favor of giving up assets when you could just utilize your cap space because Carolina's in a position to do that. So I mean, if let's take, and he said the free agent market really wasn't good, and I'm like, well, I disagree. You have Brock Besser, who's going to hit. He's going to go to free agency, and I think
Yep.
we are the team that has the most money to offer. Number 2 is Toronto, believe it or not, because they have Marner and Tavares coming off the books,
and Matthew Nyes, who they have to sign, and he's about to hit 30 goals.
Yep. So Nyes is going to get a big contract too. So you just got to take a look at that. So you look at players available. Marner, if he's not resigned, Dallas might not have that cap space you think they do since they just gave that massive deal to Rantanen.
Yeah, so they have Duchesne who's expiring.
Yeah. So there are some players. So Duchesne would be available as a solid because he's a center, isn't he?
Yes, he is a center.
So that's a second line center that Carolina could use, and I think Duchesne would be an excellent fit in Carolina. You take a look at players like Besser, like you said, and players like Marner and Tavares, and players like Bennett if they hit free agency. The only thing where I do actually agree with Adam on is I actually do think Florida is going to re-sign Sam Bennett. I think that is in their best interest to get that deal done. Yeah, I agree with Adam on Bennett. I think Florida re-signs him. I think it's in their best interest to re-sign Sam Bennett. And I think they're going to get that done. He fits their system very well, which is, by the way, similar to ours, I think, except I think they employ a more hybrid role and allow their forwards to be a little bit more creative offensively, which I think is
and they're
a better
bigger
system.
too.
Well, yeah, they're a very big team, which is a benefit of something else that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. A certain person coming to Raleigh, but the point is, I think it's I think it is a mistake to view this free agency class as not good. I think it's going to have a lot of good players depending on what happens, right? So, like if Marner gets signed, Bennett gets signed, Tavares gets signed, all of these players get signed before free agency. Yeah, the free agency class lessens a bit, but
the star talent
dealers,
might not be there, but you definitely have I would say, top 6 players, just not the elites.
Yeah, again,
in the free agency class.
If Marner hits, Carolina needs to be in on that.
Yes,
that's just a reality. And honestly, I would even say if you think you get the deal done, I would even give up a third for it. because if there's a third or a fourth round pick and send it to Toronto and get the deal done before anyone else can. For me, it's just a matter of, why would we allow this player to go to free agency and compete if he wants to sign here?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's
And I
already,
mean,
so the player knows we're interested, by the way, because Toronto had to go to him and ask, hey, would you be willing to waive? And he was not. And that had nothing, by the way, as just a thing. Oh, people are going to be like, he didn't want to go to Carolina. No, he didn't want to go anywhere. He wanted to stay and finish out the year in Toronto. That was his desire. He had the right to do that. He has a no trade clause. I'm not going to come here and say he doesn't want to be in Carolina. That's not true. At least that's not what he said at all in this situation. But I do believe the fact that they went to him and asked him to waive it, I think that may have damaged the relationship irreparably. So I don't know if Toronto gets that deal done, if I'm being honest.
yeah, I don't know either. And there's also a thing of Toronto. I mean, they could get knocked out in the first round again. And if you're
Yeah.
Mitch Marner, I mean, Toronto's the biggest market in the NHL. It just is. And a player like Marner could use that, be like, well, I don't want all this pressure on me with all the media being hounded on me. I'd rather go to some other place. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I could
Yep.
see that mentality.
Plus, if
And
you
it's,
keep getting knocked out in the first round, you might want to try something a little different.
yeah, maybe.
Anyway,
It's his choice, though. We'll see how that goes. And I mean, what you said about like what Adam said on the whole free agency, because I'm going to say what I told you last night. Part of being a good, I mean, when it comes to Tolsky, part of being a good general manager is managing your assets wisely. Let's say Bennett somehow goes to free agency. I'm not saying he will, but I'm just using this as an example. Would you rather sign him to a $7.5 million for the next 8 years, not having to give up any of the picks you got from the Dallas trade, or would you try to use the picks that you got from Dallas to try and get a second line center?
or a goalie.
I'd rather go the free agency route because you don't have to give up anything, and I think that should be the mentality. And trying to get this team to be very, very good like it was last season. Use those picks only when necessary. So I think it's wise if they go to free agency and if they're able to find some solutions, whether it's a net or a second line center or a top winger. If you can get those without having to give up anything, you do it. It's all about managing your assets. So
It is.
that's just my thing.
And this is just something I pulled up Twitter because I like to see if anything big's come out when we do these podcasts. Former Carolina Hurricane Calvin DeHaan is not happy with the New York Rangers right now.
Really? Why? He's not a part of the Rangers, is he?
Calvin DeHaan, who had been scratched for the last 18 games, didn't hold back on how he's been treated with the Rangers.
Oh, I forgot he was with the
Calvin
Rangers.
DeHaan, to scratch the past 18 games, was frustrated walking onto the ice, saying he's just wasting time. He's frustrated with how he's been treated. After a conversation with Rangers PR, he decided he will wait until the end of the year to fully address the situation.
Well, at least he's trying to be professional about it.
Yeah,
So
well, I didn't.
at least
I
he's
didn't.
trying.
I didn't quote the quote that I just sent in our group chat we have with some of our at the sessions and morning take. It was something like, "Oh my gosh!" So yeah, he is very unhappy. So it's just I think I mentioned that because we're talking about free agents, right? Just because it's a big market team doesn't mean it's the better place to play or the better
Exactly.
place for a player. So clearly Calvin DeHaan, and he's had some choice things to say about Carolina. So it's not saying that, Carolina is the best place to play. It's that it's showing that just because New York is the market everyone thinks players want to go to, it's not the case. Right. For a player like Calvin DeHaan, he doesn't want to play. Obviously he's not going to resign there. He's not happy. Right. So just because it's a big market like Toronto or New York doesn't
Well,
mean
I
they
think
want to
it's more
stay.
than just him. Way
No,
more
and
than
I
just
do
him.
too. The point I'm trying to make is just because it's a big market does not mean, and this is the problem. This is what the national media wants everyone to believe. It's that if it's a big market, that's where everyone wants to go. And that's not
But
always
that's
the
not.
case.
Yeah, and same thing with a small market team too. Look at Ransonen. He didn't want to stay with us.
Well, even then, he didn't go to some massive market. He went to Dallas. Dallas is a football town. Their hockey
Yeah,
market
true.
is massive. It's a smaller hockey market. They're big. Like Dallas is like
He
Texas is a
he
football
went from
state.
small market to a small market team.
Yeah, well, he did. He went from small market in Colorado because Colorado, again, that's not a big hockey market either. So he went from these smaller markets to smaller markets. It was more of a city thing, I think, more than anything. It wasn't that it was a small market team. He just there's more opportunity for his girlfriend in Dallas, which is the belief that's floating around that's going on there. Uh, Again, there's just you never know, but that's whatever that's what you see on social media is that it wasn't him, it was his girlfriend who didn't want to live in Raleigh, and I mean it's a lot, it is a lot of cities. I'm
Sam,
not happy with them.
you and I already talked about Ransonen.
Yeah,
But
no, but the point is just because it's New York and Toronto doesn't mean that's where these guys want to play, and maybe Marner's done.
yeah,
So
yeah, he
it's
could
not
be.
a you want to stay. It's New York and Toronto aren't all they're chalked up to be. Players don't all want to flock to New York and Toronto. That's the point, and that's why I shared that thing from Calvin Dahan.
Yeah, that is very interesting though. But Sam, let's get on to talking about the Hurricanes here, even though we've kind of already been talking about them. But good news for the captain, Sam. Jordan Stahl, nominated for both the Masterton and the Selke Trophy.
Yep.
And I mean, I wouldn't mind if any of our players won the Masterton Trophy. But Sam, if Stahl is at least like a finalist for the Selke Trophy, good for him. Because that's not an
Yeah.
easy trophy to get.
No, but he's won it before, if my memory serves correctly.
Yes, he has. It's just it's been a very, very long time since he's won the Selke Trophy. I'm just happy he's kind of really
Being recognized.
being recognized for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for him. He deserves it.
Yeah. And that was such a sick goal that he made against the Rangers. Man, wow.
I love Stahl. I love everything about him. He's a Hurricane through and through. Stonehand Stahl, as we affectionately call him, thanks
Yep.
to your dad. Uh, but he's a good player and he's a solid player. And you notice it when he's not on the team.
Exactly. And Sam, let's get to this because this is the biggest news that has happened. You mentioned it in your one liner, and I mentioned it in the last episode, but it was just rumors during that time. But Alexander Nikishkin is officially a Carolina Hurricane. It's a 2-year deal that
Yep.
will take effect to this current season and next season. And I think there's bonus money too if he wins the Calder Trophy. So it, I'm so happy, Sam. He is officially a Hurricane.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing, and it was part of what we're talking about, right? Florida's a big team. This makes Carolina a bigger team. And it's a much needed thing because the dude's physical, he's rough, he's tough, he's got a mean streak in him. We don't have anybody on this roster that's got a mean streak on him. So, we were just talking about Florida being, a bigger team. Nikishin makes Carolina a bigger team, a grittier team, a nastier team, because Nikishin's going to be the only guy on this team who's got a mean streak. Not saying that Jacob Slavin can't defend well, or Brent Burns, or Orlov, or Chatfield, or Walker, or Gostisbehere. It's not knocking any of those players. It's that none of them are nasty. None of them are willing to take liberties with other teams' players when they need to, right? You see Tom Wilson do that crap all the time. And not saying Nikishin's dirty. I'm saying he's willing to hit you, right? And that's what you want. And he's skilled at it too. And that's what you need, right? If you want to take a look at a player who's probably similar in skill, who has skill and is aggressive and will hit you, Ovechkin, right? He's got all the skill in the world, but he's not afraid to lay the body. Nikishin as skill, and also he's not afraid to lay the body, and that's what you want in a big 6'4" defenseman.
Yes. And it makes things interesting because if you look at that contract, Sam, because how that contract is structured is that it's going to expire at the same time as Stankoven and Blake at the end of next season. So that makes you wonder, Sam, should they spend all of the cap space that they have, knowing that they have Stankoven, Blake, and Nikishkin all on expiring contracts the year after? Because
I
I
think it
looked
depends
at
on,
this at Puckpedia.
I think it matters on what you want to bring in and bring on board.
I agree with that, but I think from a contract standpoint, you probably need to leave like at least probably maybe $3 or $4 million to spare, just so that you can save up to try and re-sign these guys. Because
Yeah,
Nikishkin is a core piece, you cannot let him go.
no, he won't. He's not going anywhere.
No, he's not, but
So,
it makes things interesting cap wise.
sure. And the reality is, I think Carolina's looking to spend. They're looking for a high end player. I think their
Yes.
wants this offseason are, because if you look at what we have, we can sign Taylor Hall, we can sign, whatever, right? Bottom six player. And we have some guys like Bradley Nadeau and some other players who could play on rookie deals this season.
Yep.
But I think Carolina is looking for that Mitch Marner type of player, right? That's the kind of money they want to spend. So they want to go out, spend money there, grab that. They need to get a goalie. You have to get a goalie, right? You only got one under contract next year. So you got to go grab a goalie.
Yeah.
Whether that's Freddie or Gibson, you got to go get a goalie. So some of the cap space will be used to get a goalie. And then I think some of the cap space will be used to find a second line center, right? I think that's kind of the plans. Because my guess is, and this is what I do, I have KK play on the third scoring line. Theoretically, if he's good, that third scoring line should be devastating.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Let's go to a sponsor real quick, and then we'll get back to the KK discussion because I have something to say about that.
Okay.
The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high skates drama, clutch moments, and jaw dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Okay, so the whole KK thing. I'm glad you brought him up because this Canes team also has another player, and I could see the competition, but they have another big guy in Yankowski, who's been doing very, very good.
Yeah.
What if Tulski is like, you know what? Let's make him the center on our third scoring line. What do you do with KK at that point? You buy him out?
I don't think
Because
you
you
have to buy
can't
him.
go. You can't. I think you can't go with that center core again.
Oh, I don't think you have to buy him out. I think you can trade him. I think we saw at the deadline that KK was wanted by Vancouver. Elliot Friedman even reported that KK was part of a deal that would have brought JT Miller to Carolina.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, you know what? If he wants to be traded to Vancouver, all right.
And I'm not saying it's Vancouver. I'm saying clearly teams want him. So like that's the point. Is I don't think you have to buy him out. I think you can make a trade.
Okay. So would you make that trade if or
I'd want to know what Yankowski's contract was because his contract would be up at the end of next season, right?
yes, it
So
will.
yeah, you're going to move one of the two players. You're going to move Yankowski or you can move KK. If you want
But
to go with
he's going to be cheaper though.
yeah Yankowski.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can move,
See the dilemma there?
KK is the higher ended player. He just is. He has more high end. His high end is higher, right? So KK's high end is like here. Yankowski's is here. Now Yankowski is playing here while KK is playing here, right?
Yeah,
So
I
that's
agree.
the thing is, right? KK like Yankowski's playing at his highest potential right now, while KK is not playing at his is up here. He's playing below right now. So that's the problem. So it's like, okay, if Yankowski is this is the best we're gonna get from him is what we're seeing right now. But is Yankowski's low end lower than KK's lower end, right? So like that's the question is like what are we gonna get? Is this system just so perfect for Yankowski that he's gonna turn into a 20 goal scorer for this team, right? Like if that happens, 20, 30 goals as for Yankowski, I think 20 is maybe if he's on this pace next season and plays
Yeah,
this
maybe.
well. Sure. I mean, if the right deal comes along, I trade KK. I'm not a big fan of buying out. And I know
It,
the ownership isn't a big fan of that either. So I think the trade would have to come before a buyout would happen. And just remember his contract
I
isn't
agree with
awful.
that. Yeah.
And we've taken off several years because was he have 5 years left, 4 years left?
Yeah, he has like 5 years left.
So yeah, it won't be a hard deal to I think move.
No,
So
it probably isn't, but I do agree with you in the fact that if you can trade him, do that before buying him out. But another thing too, Sam, is Will Carrier is back. He's back and healthy, and I actually thought he played it very good against the Rangers. But it makes things interesting with the how the lines might be projected in the playoffs. Sam, do you have Carrier play with Stahl and Martinuk, or do you have him play on a separate line? I think that's the question that I think a lot of Canes fans are having.
yeah, and the thing with Carrier is I'm starting to wonder like where he fits.
Well, I think he's needed. And honestly, the first game he came back against the Rangers, he played great. My gosh, he got an assist on the Yankowski goal. So, I mean, I think to me, just seeing how he plays, Sam, does it get to the point where do you scratch Robinson or do you scratch Rozovic? Honestly, I'd probably scratch Robinson because I just think you need all the offense you can get.
Yeah, and I think Robinson's been iffy. It hasn't been like Robinson's had a great year. I'm not trying to take from that, and I'm not trying to trash any player because I really, I think KK had a better season this year than he did last year. Um, Roslovic clearly had a better year than he did last year here in Carolina. So it was a good year for Roslovic. He's going to get paid this offseason because he's proven that he can score some goals. Um, Taylor Hall is having a great year. But, like, I'm not scratching Taylor Hall.
No.
I'm not scratching Blake for obvious reasons.
Stankoven, you don't scratch.
I'm not scratching Stankoven. It's just like, huh.
I think it's Robinson. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too because I honestly I'm not scratching Yankowski, dude scoring on like in every other game clip.
And he's a center.
And
Robinson isn't.
a big center too, and you need size, especially when you're going up against the Devils, who I think if we play our cards right can bully around a little bit.
Yeah. You know, the hockey guy had the Devils at 17th on his power rankings.
Really,
So
so he
outside
has
the
them
top.
top
Yeah.
16.
Yeah, he does not. And he even stated that ever since the turn of the new year, their point percentage is like the 25th in the league, I believe. I believe that's what he said. I could be wrong, but for those that like the hockey guy like I do, uh, watch his most recent power rankings, but yeah, I don't think the Devils are as big as someone like Subban does. But
No,
Sam,
which
the
by the way,
Rangers,
he's an absolute moron of a analyst. He doesn't
I
know what he's
can't. I
talking
yeah.
about.
I trust me. I can't stand him either.
I'm just sorry. Like, what are you doing? You having us below Montreal and Ottawa? I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, I
Montreal's
don't
hot right
understand that.
now. Ottawa is hot right now. That does not put them above us. And you're putting Washington above. I'm sorry. Washington just got absolutely obliterated by Columbus. Like,
Yeah,
what are you
they have.
talking about?
I mean, okay. I mean, Washington. Okay, they're higher than us in the standings. I'm not gonna argue with him on Washington, but yeah, Ottawa and Montreal. Yeah, I took offense to that because I'm like, dude, they just made the playoffs. And
And I'm
this is
like,
their
come on,
first
man.
season in a long time of making the playoffs too.
As a nobody on that Montreal roster, that's like their top end players have playoff experience. Caulfield, Suzuki, they don't have it. Hayton, he's a rookie. Uh, I mean, like, good for you. That Montreal team kind of reminds me a little bit of Carolina in 2019. So maybe they make a really good run and get there. I think they could get some bracket luck, right? I think Washington is starting to show that they might not be as good as everyone thinks, right? They're not winning. Their only win in recent memory was they beat us in overtime. By the way,
Yeah.
it took a shootout to beat us, and we're just no good in the shootout. Uh, so it's like, okay, Washington I think is beatable in the first round, and if Montreal stays hot, and Washington is not prepared for what will happen in the Bell Center, by the way, for those two games at home. The Bell Center is one of the loudest stadiums in the National Hockey League when it comes to playoff games. I was looking at some highlights of Montreal and their playoff days, and whoo, that is not a building that's going to be easy to play in for anybody. So, could I see Montreal making a run yet? Sure, but I think it's unrealistic to rank them above the Hurricanes, and just not take into account that we have so much playoff experience on this roster at this point. And I'm sorry, just you're ranking New Jersey, the team that doesn't have Jack Hughes, above us. Like, that team is the only difference between New Jersey of last year and New Jersey of this year is they have Jacob Markstrom. So what does that do to give them an extra game? So do we beat them in 6, instead of 7
And they
or
do
instead of
have better
5? So I was
they
like,
do have better defense. I mean, they added Brett Pesci. It, so
sure, but it's not like we don't know how Brad Pesci plays.
exactly. So
So does that negate itself? Like, does our ability to know how Brad Pesci play? Because Brad Pesci's not going to provide you offense. So I'm
no,
just
and he's not a good skater either. So you can pass him.
yeah. So you can walk Pesci and you can walk Dougie. So I mean,
Exactly. Well,
I
Sam.
I just don't
Yep.
think they're as good as people think.
Oh, I agree. I really do agree on that. The Rangers game, Sam. So you did not watch this game, so I can
I did
tell
not.
I'm probably gonna talk about this game a lot more. But I was at this game, and even with the Rangers not making the playoffs at all, there are still lots of Rangers fans there. And you had in the first period, Sam, I thought the Canes played really good. I would say the Canes played really good up until maybe around the midpoint of the third period, maybe a little bit before the midpoint, but they still played excellent. You had Chatfield scoring from Orlov and Jarvis. What a nice wrist type of shot from Chatfield as he scores on Shesterkin. And then you have Jarvis scoring from Aho and Blake and Sam. Boy, that Aho line really, really shined against the Rangers. And you can just tell Rangers are just, they are not good.
They're
Really
just.
not good right
I think
now.
they've lost interest in the season.
They really have. Like, they just didn't seem interested until I would say the third period. But it's 2-0. Hurricanes are winning. And then in the second period, you have Blake scoring from Jarvis and Aho. And then you have Yankowski scoring from Carrier and Josen. Carrier, he played excellent, I thought, right from his first shift on the ice. So he's definitely hasn't missed a beat. And another thing, too, is Kochekov played this game. I thought he was a little bit better than his previous starts with us. Do I think he was still fantastic? No, but I think this is a good starting point, as I would say, because I thought he made quite a few good saves.
The one thing I'll say is because I listened to Adam Gold's thing after the Rangers game
Mm-hmm.
last night, and he kind of made a comment that I think is fascinating. And I want to talk a little bit about Kochetkov too here, because I've made comments about it, and Kenyak Sessions posted this week, and I think it's worth the conversation. And I think this playoffs is going to tell us kind of what this team thinks. So Kochetkov, at right now, do you start him at all in the playoffs? Right, and Adam talked about this, and unless because right now he's no good, and you throw him in as you're going to lose the game kind of thing, and I think that's how he believes the team kind of feels about this right now, right? In the playoffs anyway. That's like a give me kind of game. You go up like 3-0. All right, let's throw Kochetkov in. If we lose, not a big deal, right? That's the kind of situation Kochetkov gets a game in Adam's mind right now. But the question is, as well, is Carolina's been here before, where we had a young goalie, got a good season, and then just faltered, and we traded him. His name was Alex Nedeljkovic. And by the way,
I hated that trade at the time, for the record.
Yeah, and I did too. And I'll also say this: Nedeljkovic had better numbers than Kochetkov did. Now, Kochetkov's played more games, but Ned had better numbers. Does Carolina give him the Nedeljkovic treatment? And I think this playoffs will tell you. If no matter what, Rod does not go to Kochetkov, even if Anderson has a bad game and allows bad goals that cost us, and he refuses to go to Kochetkov, I think that's going to tell you that Kochetkov's time in Carolina is coming to an end. And I've talked about this a couple of times where I think it's possible, where I've compared the two, right? Because you have to. Those are the two best comparables, Nedeljkovic and Kochetkov. Kochetkov's numbers aren't as good as Ned's were here. Again, smaller sample size, but I mean, I think if you look at Ned, Kochetkov has better defense over in front of him than Nedeljkovic did, and his numbers aren't as good. So we won 7-3 against the Rangers. He allowed in 3 goals. 1 goal was clearly goalie interference. So I say 2.
Yes.
I'm going to say he allowed 2 versus 3. That's a good start. I don't know if those goals were savable. Again, I did not watch the game.
Well, the Coley goal was savable. I thought that was really, really bad. Kochetkov needed to stop that. But I mean, in the third period, Rangers were starting to push. You had JT Miller scoring, and then Adam Fox, and I believe it was so the Miller goal. I do remember. I thought that was more of a defensive breakdown because it was just him and Kochetkov, and I was like, are all of our players doing? And he couldn't save that. And I honestly blame that more on our defense than our goalie. I just do. Adam Fox, I think that was clearly goalie interference because the way the refs have been calling goalie interference, if your skate blade is even in the crease, they've called it off. And there's a lot more than just a skate blade in the crease. So that was my issue.
Yeah, no, I from what I heard, I think that's a fair assessment of that situation. But I think it's important as we're going into the playoffs because these last 3 games in my mind are pretty meaningless.
Yeah, but you have Martinook and Stankoven scoring the empty net goals. Stankoven has a 6th sense.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
But I mean, before we move on to Toronto in just a couple minutes, Sam, I'm gonna head to that game. I mean, because Kochetkov's not playing tonight. It's Anderson tonight. It's a back-to-back. I mean, do you think that Kochetkov could be done here?
Well, so here's what I would do.
Like, do you think after
this game, I would say after this game, you play Kochetkov. Is it another? I believe it is another back-to-back.
It is back to back.
Um,
I actually think Kochekov could handle the back to back. I think he could play both.
Wednesday and Thursday. You know what? I play him both games. I just would.
He's a young guy. He can play both. It's not like it would kill him to play both games. This should be Freddie Anderson's last game.
Yes,
I don't
I think it
I
should
don't
too.
want to see him play another game because if Freddie gets hurt, that's it. I don't even know if we get out of the first round. Um, and even then, I don't have a big belief in Freddie Anderson, as you know. I've talked about that
Yeah,
before.
I mean, I
My
don't either.
I have what happened in the Rangers series last season, like seared into my brain because I was at the game where we got eliminated. And it's just hard to. It's just not easy to
Oh
think
yeah,
about. So it's just like okay, I don't okay.
yeah. Well, I mean, Anderson's played slightly better recently. I say slightly because I mean he's been a little bit shaky too. But the way I see goaltending right now, because both goalies haven't really been playing like their best form as of late, is I think you just hope. You just hope that once the playoffs start, they somehow get dialed in. So
Yep,
you just because the playoffs in reality it is completely different than the regular
it
season.
is.
You
Yeah,
just never know what's going to happen when it comes
yeah.
to goalies.
And if we play, let's see, what's the next game? We would play.
Isn't
We
it
play the
Montreal?
Devils. We play the Devils in the first round. So then we'd play the winner of Montreal, Washington.
Maybe.
Because my guess is that's going to be the first round matchup.
Yeah. So I think Washington's going to win that series. So I think it's going to be Carolina, Washington. But Logan Thompson for Washington has not been playing good as of recently. So you just
Washington
never know
hasn't
with
been playing
goalies,
good.
man.
Washington hasn't been playing good in general.
No, neither has
So,
Florida, to be honest.
well, so the belief there is that Florida's like, all right, we'll let Ottawa pass us and we'll play Toronto in the first round. And I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of funny. Because
Yeah, well, I
I
already
think
mentioned
Florida
that in the
won't.
last episode. So
What do you think? I didn't hear it. What do you think?
I
You think
think
they're
it'd be
doing that?
I
You
think
think they're
it's
doing it?
funny, but I think it's funny. I could see them doing it, but at the same time, I think to help Carolina's chances of maybe winning the Stanley Cup, I still don't think they do. But if they somehow do, Florida and Tampa have to face each other.
Because one of them gets eliminated no matter
Yes,
what.
yes.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'd rather see Florida get eliminated. I like our chances against Tampa better, which is crazy to say, but I do.
Oh, I do too. Well, Sam, let's get to recapping the Toronto game. Well, Sam, the last home game of the season, we lost, but at this point, we're both willing to say it. We're ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, ready for the playoffs, and this game just doesn't matter. I kind of got freaked at one point when I saw Jarvis and another one of our players collide at the bench, and it looked like Jarvis kind of looked like he was stung by it a little bit, and I was like, oh no. This game doesn't matter. Just stay healthy. Just stay healthy.
Exactly. But if
It
we were
mattered
to
more for
say,
Toronto, and it showed.
yeah, it did. It showed, I would say, it definitely in the second period because I thought first period Carolina was all over Toronto, but they couldn't make anything out of it. And credit to Toronto's defense. I thought their defense was excellent. And even though I thought our defense was good in the first
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought we looked great in the first period. We should have been
yeah,
up in the first period, and that's the problem. We didn't get enough out of the first period because
no,
after
we
that,
didn't.
Toronto took over the game.
Yes, they did. In the second period, we only generated 2 shots on goal. And Toronto was just they were doing Toronto like things of how they win with I mean they scored 2 goals. You have Toronto just scored 1 goal in the second with Austin Matthews scoring, and then in the third period, Sam, it's William Nylander scoring and John Tavares. Now, we did get a 4-minute power play, which I thought at some point we were like, oh, so we're gonna blow this power play, but we didn't. Zaho did score.
Yeah. It was just I really, and I did not have a problem with Anderson, by the way. I don't think I think those goals were all just hardworking goals that I don't expect him to make a save on any of them. There's nothing he's going to do.
No, I blame our defense on those goals.
Yep.
Like, boy, our defense was bad. I don't know what happened there, but
Yeah, really, once Toronto scored their goal, that was kind of it. We didn't really get much going after that. I don't think we had a lot of. I don't think we had a lot of shots after they scored. I think after the first period, we had a total of like 10 or 12 more the entire game.
so we had 15 more. But the thing is, we only had 2 shots in the second. We had 13 shots in the third, and a huge part of those shots came
Power
from that
play.
4-minute power play.
Yep.
So, I mean, did I think we played a little bit better in that third period? Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, after we scored that goal, I mean, Carolina, do they push? Yes, but Toronto, I mean, credit to their blue line. I mean, they were amazing, and Wolf made some excellent saves.
Oh yeah, he was very good tonight. Very good
Like
tonight. I
that
was
save that
impressed.
he made on Rozovic with the with his pad. Like, oh my gosh, that was elite.
Yeah. No, I mean it was. We got a goal lead tonight, and I thought Toronto was the better team tonight too. I mean, good for them. I mean, really good for them for getting a solid win. We beat them last time we were at home. They're a good team. Uh, I still think we win a 7-game series against them, but I mean, Austin Matthews did Austin Matthews things tonight. The big guns in Toronto showed up today. Austin Matthews, John Tavares, William Nylander, all got goals tonight.
And it shows
So,
how good the Toronto is in transition. And it doesn't
yeah,
surprise me. They have high elite offensive talent.
yeah, and they have a good coach who's instilled some work ethic in them and some defensive responsibility because that's the kind of coach he is. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I like Craig Berube. He's a good coach.
all I view these last couple games are is, if you want to bring up some young guys from Charlotte, you want to bring up Felix Ungersorum, or you want to bring up Bradley Nadeau for a couple games, I guess I'm fine with that.
Nadeau hit 30 goals last night.
Yeah, I saw that. If those two games are games where, like the Wolves don't play, sure, bring up Nadeau. If it's a chance for him to play in Chicago those nights and keep him in Chicago, because I think that's the right decision for Nadeau at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think
But bring up
they
some
can
guys from
get
Chicago. Let's get some look at some of these young players.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind that because I don't care about the last 2 games. The
Oh,
only
and
thing
if
I
Nikishin
would
can't
care
play,
is Nikishin.
yeah, oh yeah, you play Nikishin for sure in these last 2 games if you can. If not, bring up Ty Smith. You play Morrow and Ty Smith and give 2 of our regulars breaks. I think you give Slavin and Chatfield some nights off at least. I don't think Slavin should play these last 2 games.
No, I don't think so either. But let's just hope
Bring up
there's no
Spencer Martin.
injury. Let's hope there's no injuries because if you remember, Sam, the very
Uh,
last game last
Jesper
season,
Fast.
yeah,
Yep.
Jesper Foss. So
Look, you just look and you play Ottawa, who is a very physical team. Game 82. I believe 82 is Ottawa, 81 is
Montreal.
Montreal.
Yep.
So Montreal's not as physical, but for game 82, yeah, I don't play any of my star talent. None.
Yeah, I
Aho,
wouldn't
no.
either.
Jarvis, no. Blake, no. Slavin, no. Absolutely not. You want to bring up Nadeau and Ungersorum and Yaska and whatever, you bring them up. Let them play. I don't care. Because I'm not playing any of my top players that last game because Ottawa's tough, especially,
Yeah,
I
they
don't
are.
want that. Because Ottawa could be playing, that game could mean something to Ottawa, right? If Florida loses out and Ottawa keeps winning, they might find themselves in a position to take over that 3rd spot.
Yes.
So that
Well,
game could
so
matter.
Florida is up 4 points over Ottawa. They're at 98 points. Ottawa at 94. So we'll see
Yeah,
if
they
they
have 2
do
games, so they
it.
can win. Well, they would have to have the tie break, and I don't think they do. Yeah, okay, so no, Florida's locked
No.
in.
Yeah, Florida
So
is
never mind.
kind of
That
locked
is,
in.
they are locked in. Ottawa has nothing to play for, because Montreal can't catch
Neither
Ottawa.
does
So
Carolina. So not
nope.
expecting lots of action in the last 2 games. But Sam, We have 2 more games. I'm ready for playoffs.
You and me both.
Really am. So we will see you guys Friday.